Okay, good morning. Welcome to Self-Care Sunday, where we explore what it means to fill our own cups. Welcome to all of you fierce parents, brave enough to show up for yourself today. Say hi in the chat, especially if you're watching the replay, because today we are going to fill our cup with community by having real conversations with real people about an issue that so many of us feel like we can't talk about. And that's how parenting is so hard on our nervous system. So we're going to talk about the trauma of being a parent. And I am noticing that I immediately feel a sense of like panic in my body just by saying those words, because my old programming is telling me that I am a terrible mom for not feeling constant bliss as a parent, for not feeling constantly grateful, constantly giving, constantly energetic and gleeful about this parenting journey. And so I'm so curious if any of you saw my post about this event in a mom's group, and it says the trauma of parenting. Or in a mompreneur group. And I want you to think hypothetically, if you didn't see the post, would you give it a like if you saw the trauma of parenting? Or would you worry about what other parents would think about you if you did that? Like if they knew that it resonated with you. Give me an emoji in the chat if you would worry about that. All right, so I'm curious, what do you think the other moms would think of you if you admitted that parenting was traumatic for you? Put in the chat what you think other parents might think of you. I gotta find the chat. Okay. So what do you think they would think of you? I know for me, I would think that I must be doing something wrong. Oh, that mom must be doing something wrong. That mom must be, selfish for seeing this as trauma, ungrateful for having the beautiful children that she has. Maybe they see me as a complainer for complaining about the trauma of parenting. And the worst one of all, the one that stabs my heart the most, would be if they thought I was a bad mom because I resonated with parenting being a traumatic experience. And because of that fear, we hide our true feelings behind a we can handle anything smile. And we do all of our crying in private. And between you and me, I beat myself up for a very long time for feeling like this. Like, what was wrong with me that I felt that this parenting journey, which was a privilege, was supposed to be a trauma, or that I was feeling that it was a traumatic experience. And I love that you're saying in the chat that traumatic is such a strong word. Yes, it is a strong word, and I'm using it intentionally. And it is surprising when people say it, because we don't put those things together. We don't put trauma and parenting together unless it's something huge and obvious, right? And so you're saying, Jen, that I think it means that the kids are really stressful. Yeah, okay. But we're not blaming the kids here. What we are doing here is we are giving a voice to the reality of how our nervous system interprets the things that we encounter on a daily basis as a parent. I know I wasn't implying that you're blaming the kids, but I want to be very, very clear. We are not finger pointing at our kids right now. What we are doing is we're having a real open conversation about how the challenges that we face on a daily basis impact our body. Because today, what I want to do, I want to change the narrative. I want us to collectively say, I am tired of hiding my tail between my legs. Like, it is actually ridiculous in my mind to think that anything in life has just one facet. Ask any first responder, and they're going to tell you it is possible to love and love what you do and to choose it again and again. And also at the same time, have that job take a toll on your mental health. So some of you are new to me. Hi, I'm Christina. I'm a burnout coach, and I'm the creator of the Mind BS method for overcoming burnout. And my mission is to help busy parents who have lost themselves in the overwhelm of life to find happiness and fulfillment in the daily grind so that we can model what it means to live a life of joy for our kids. And I'm raising 4 boys with my partner, Tim. And in that group, I have 1 child with allergies, 2 with ADHD, 2 with learning disabilities, 1 with anxiety, and 1 with autism and behavior challenges that admittedly caused a lot of trauma to my system. And I didn't acknowledge that for years. What I did instead was continue to look for solutions for my kids. I thought that if I could just make them okay, then I would be okay. Like if they were happy, then I would be happy. And that is a little bit true. But I also found myself inching closer and closer to burnout as I tried and implemented all of the solutions that I found to make them happy. And it felt like the color of life was slowly draining from my world. And I started just making it through, like just getting through the day however I could. And I used wine and caffeine and sheer determination for years, but I got to the point where there was just no joy, no matter how much I tried to bring it back. And now I know a lot of it had to do with holding on to the traumas that came with my parenting journey. So let's start by talking about powerlessness. Powerlessness is one of the major elements that contributes to trauma. Think about a typical trauma situation. Like people feel powerless to stop something or someone, powerless to help, and powerless from preventing bad things from happening again. And that feeling of powerlessness is one of the contributors to PTSD. So let's think of that in the context of parenting. Like from the moment you decide that maybe you'd like to be a parent, there's an element of powerlessness. Powerlessness over whether you're going to be able to conceive, over how the birth is going to go, or whether your baby will be healthy. Even if you go the adoption route, there's a similar powerlessness there. And then you decide how you want to be as a parent, but things are harder than you expect. Breastfeeding is hard, and maybe your baby doesn't sleep through the night, and maybe your body doesn't bounce back the way you expect it to. Or maybe those things are easy for you, and you're feeling like, yeah, I've got a handle on this parenting thing. But then you end up with a toddler who starts biting other kids and then almost gets kicked out of daycare, and you don't know what to do. And your kid refuses to do the things that you know are good for them, like wear their outdoor gear, like their mittens and their jackets, or eat anything but fish crackers, or go to sleep at a reasonable time. And they don't want to get dressed, and they say embarrassing things in public, and you're constantly late. And then your kid is bullied in school, or even worse, they become the bully themselves. You try so hard, but you can't always fix it. Powerlessness. One of the worst for me is like when my kid is having social challenges at school, like if they're having trouble making friends, or the friends that they do have aren't treating them very well. It breaks my heart, but I can't make it better. I cannot take their pain away, and it makes me feel powerless. And what about when your kid gets sick and they're miserable, and we bring them to the doctor because like it's the only thing within our power to do, but we cannot fix it. We don't have the power to just make them better and stop their suffering. And we need a break. As parents, we need a break so bad. But we're powerless there too, because everyone needs us all of the time. And then before you know it, you have a teenager who has maybe issues with their body image, or an eating disorder, or have started cutting or smoking or worse. And you feel powerless. And all of that is if you have healthy kids. When your kid has special needs, whether that's physical or mental, your powerlessness multiplies exponentially. Let me know, does that resonate with you? Do you ever feel like you're living in fear of the next bad thing? Like, what happens in your body when you get a phone call from your child's school? I know immediately, I'm like, oh no, what now? Something bad is about to happen. It's like, it's exhausting. So last week we talked about those feelings of failure as a parent. Like, we work so hard to provide the kind of environment in childhood that will lead to healthy adults, but it's not always obvious how to do that, you know? Like, how do you know when it's time to set a limit and when it's time to back away? I know there are so many nights that I lie awake wondering if I made the right decision or if I handled a situation correctly. And I don't know. I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't know what the right thing is. I don't know if there is even a right thing. But I worry that I'm not doing a good job and that I'm failing my kids and that I'm failing at life. And so we've got powerlessness and we've got feelings of failure or futility. And there's one more thing that contributes to the sense of trauma that we're going to talk about today, and that is moral injury. This is a concept where you are forced to go against your morals or your values. Like, one example that I can think of, have you seen the movie I, Robot with Will Smith? So the robot went and it saved his life instead of a young girl's life because the robot calculated that he had a better chance of survival. And that resulted in a moral injury for Will Smith's character because he lived and she didn't, which went against his moral code. So in the context of parenting, think about being torn between the needs of our kids. Like, I was a single parent with one kid who needed tons of stimulation all the time, and one kid who could not handle any stimulation at all. I had one who desperately wanted to go to like extreme trampoline and Fun Haven and any sort of amusement park that is geared towards kids. And I had one who had a hard time even crossing the threshold of our house because of sensory issues. So it felt like meeting the needs of one kid meant that the other one suffers. Like, there is no right choice for me here. That was really hard. Another example would be thinking that we are going to have a very different relationship with our kids than we have with our parents. And I work with so many parents who have this type of moral injury where, like, they know that the relationship with their parents is complicated and they desperately don't want to repeat that with their kids. Like, we're going to create this, perfect, loving home with a respectful relationship with our kids, and everything is just going to be delightful and wonderful and loving. And having that vision of what we're striving for not matching the reality that we're living in, no matter how hard we try, is a form of trauma. So if you think about it, our body interprets all of this the same way as if we were living in an abusive relationship. Sometimes the relationship is good, but we never know when it's going to go back. And we love our little beasts so much, but it hurts sometimes. They hurt us sometimes. And we're powerless to stop the bad things from happening and powerless to prevent them from happening again. We are constantly caught between our different values. And on top of all of that, we are dealing constantly with judgment and comparison. My goodness, I think parents are like one of the most judged groups in all of the world, because we're just trying our best to make them happy and loving them. And no matter what we do, because those decisions aren't obvious, could be interpreted as wrong. And these lead to our sense of feeling like a failure. And we feel like we have to hide our suffering from the world. because we think that they're not going to understand. And then they're going to look down on us, right? Okay. So my main point here is that an accumulation of small challenges can lead to trauma. It doesn't have to be something huge, although it definitely can be, okay? I know that there are some of you who have endured the big parenting traumas too, and I'm sending love to you right now. And I definitely don't want to minimize that. But I also don't want the parents who haven't had those big traumas to think that they shouldn't feel this way just because they haven't had a big trauma. That is just definitely not true. PTSD can come from like one big thing or an accumulation of small things. And the same is true here. And I'm hoping that parental PTSD or something very similar to that starts to become a thing that is taken seriously and has a treatment plan with therapists dedicated to this. Okay, great. We have now talked about it. We have now openly realized that it's possible for parenting to be a traumatic experience. What do we do about it? Guess what? You've already started taking action, because step one on the road to recovery is admitting and acknowledging that the trauma exists. And so I work with police officers who refuse to acknowledge the effect of trauma that they endure on a daily basis because it doesn't match their identity as a tough, competent police officer. And it's the exact same thing with parents. We don't want to acknowledge that parenting has given us trauma because it doesn't match our identity of a good parent who can handle anything with patience and kindness. So let's reflect for a second. Is that police officer less effective for admitting that they need to take care of their mental health? No, they're probably going to be a better police officer for doing that. Are they less competent? Definitely not. So let's think about what's more courageous: asking for help and then taking action to heal, or stuffing it all down and numbing the pain. So today we are all showing our courage by acknowledging our trauma and taking action to heal. Okay, great. So what is that action? Okay, the next step before you do anything else is to soothe your nervous system. So remember we talked about that body response from the phone call from the school? Like, we are often on high alert and we don't even know it. And it's not as hard as we make it out to be. And if you want to get started, you can grab my free burnout escape plan on my website, mindbs.ca, or you can go to a direct link, mindbs.ca/escape burnout. And that's going to show you the exact steps to get started today, even if you are so busy that you don't even get to pee by yourself. Okay, then you're ready for step 3, which is to process your feelings. Oh, this is so scary for so many of us because we have spent a lifetime shoving them down. And therapy is a great way to learn how to do this. There are many different types of therapy out there. And I also teach a 3-step process in my program, Bridge to Your Best Life, to help you do this. Now, step 4 is to change your perspective about the trauma. It's kind of like rewriting the story about it. This can shift those feelings of powerlessness and failure into beliefs that, hey, you were doing the best that you could with the tools that you had. And doing the best is what makes you an amazing parent. So I can reflect and say that for me, having a violent child changed me at my core. It sort of shattered me into a million pieces and forced me to do this work that allowed me to see how beautiful my new perspective is on life. And even though it was damn hard to put myself back together again, I am now proud of the person that I have become. And I would never have grown this much without that influence. And I would never have started doing the work that I'm doing, like this presentation, without that stimulus to get me moving forward. Like without the trauma of my past experience, I would not be here speaking to you today. And I hope that by showing up for you over and over again, that I get to help somebody else who may be going through this. And that never would have happened without my prior experiences. So that allowed me to see things differently and made me feel a little bit different about the powerlessness that I experienced when my kids were young. Okay, so step 5 is to use this new knowledge and skill and experience to inform our choices for the future. This is where we take our power back. We have the power to choose. We have the power to write our own story. We have the power to decide whether we're going to stay down and sad and powerless, or whether we are going to get back up and face life with a renewed determination. So if you don't know this, I'm offering free coaching for the entire month of November. So you've got a few more days to take advantage of this. And I've even opened a few spots in December too. And I normally charge $200 a session. So take advantage while they are free. If you are feeling stuck in this powerlessness, please come talk to me. You can book a spot on my website at mindbs.ca, and I called this promo the Happy Parent Project. And so right now it's at the very top of my website, the very first thing, easy to find. Okay, parents, we did it. We talked about it. How are you feeling now? I really hope that you are feeling damn proud that you showed up today and stayed all the way to the end, even if it maybe got uncomfortable. And so I'm going to stop recording now and open it up for real conversation. So everybody who's here with me on Zoom, please stay on. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments and personal experiences. Okay, bye to everybody else.
Join me in my Blissfully Busy Facebook group to see if we can figure out how to dodge burnout together.